evening, and welcome to another edition of the FTTC podcast, sponsored by the proud home of Stinky, the New York City Sanitation Department, turning trash into treasures, one stinky player at a time. We're your home for breaking news and breaking balls of the fantasy sports world. From touchdowns to tailgates, we've got it all covered with a dash of witty banter. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and today we have a very special extended episode to recap the pre-draft interviews of the FTTC. We'll touch on all the big topics, beginning with last season's controversial ending, some draft and season predictions, and finally finishing with a rumor roundup addressing the hottest topics in the FTTC universe directly from the source, including directly from Mr. Steve Blazer. So, without further ado, let's see what the league has to say.
It was interesting to see Roadrunners Naz come out on top. You know, there's been some speculation in the media about their performance. Some people saying it's a fluke. It was complete luck. I'm curious if you have any comments on that situation.
Let's talk about how Brian Durante won his championship. And let's not mince words here. He won through the sacrifice of Damar Hamlin's body. That injury does not happen in whatever that was, week 16. I think we can safely say that Dan Zay is your two-time FTTC champion. You hate to see Brian kind of win on the back of an injury. I did actually facilitate a meeting, closed-door meeting between the Disasters and Roadrunners Naz, where they did come to an amicable agreement in regards to who would be champion. Ultimately decided that the champion on the board, the champion on the website, despite what would have happened had tragedy not struck, was ultimately the champion that we were going to honor. Just tough to see it for Dan Zay. I think he probably had every right to that championship, but honorable sports to relinquish it to Durante. I mean, if Durante's ever going to win one, it was going to be kind of some questionable circumstances, let's be honest. He backed into one, but 50 years from now, when you're looking at his Wikipedia page, it's just going to say 2022 champion. That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
I have to give a big shout out to Brian Durante. He was an ultimate professional handling the situation. I think in terms of the payouts and all that. So it was a really disappointing situation. I don't think, I don't know. I mean, you can't even make that up, Game stops. You have a running back that obviously is going to win. But, I'm going to take the high road here and glad Damar Hamlin's okay and saw he made the 53-man roster.
The Roadrunners Naz official stance that we don't know what caused the injury, and I'll leave it at that. Having said that, we were very open to ideas that the league and the commissioner presented. When things were finalized, we decided to go with what the commissioner had decided. We had a very cordial conversation between the three of us, and Mike did a great job. Roger fucking Goodell did a great job really talking us through this, really handling it. And I'd like to take this time to just address the great job he's done over the past, 10 plus years. Really saddened, sorrowed to hear about his retirement coming up in just a few short years, and from a Roadrunners Naz perspective, we couldn't ask for a better commissioner.
So I want to get your thoughts on some rumors that we heard that there might have been some heavy investment from the Naz group, potentially some back channeling to the commissioner. Curious if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, that wouldn't shock me at all. I have heard those rumors as well. I, of course, don't know the full story. I wouldn't put it past either of them, either Crooked Kokoris or, of course, the fascist Brian Durante.
There's something shady going on at the top, I will say, and I'm not the first to vocalize that. So I'm really happy that this is sort of like almost a true crime podcast. We're shining some light on the dark areas of this league that need to be shown on. So yeah, I would agree. I think something shady is there, and would love to know.
Just another classic case of Naz getting an unfair advantage. Just kind of an outsider, just plays by his own rules, and I wouldn't expect anything less from that.
The overwhelming majority of the league members having attended Lyons Township High School and proudly wearing the blue and yellow Mr. Durrani and his colleagues have conducted themselves with, well, let's just say they come a bit short of class, as the old saying.
I mean, that's about as controversial as it gets. But big shout out to our fearless leader, Roger Goodell, Mike Kokoris, for kind of navigating the ship through some murky waters there.
I've been hearing rumors of corruption myself since this league began. And frankly, between that and the fact that Steve has managed to elude punishment thus far, I think also really reflects poorly on our leadership. And I think if things don't really turn around this season, then there are going to be a lot of questions being asked by myself.
In terms of the sports washing that went on between Naz and the commissioner, all I'll say is that league office funds were not involved. It all was whatever did or did not happen was probably transacted through some sort of Russian bank account, and I can't comment on that. But I did notice the commissioner actually moved into a brand new nice apartment this summer. So I'll let you come to your own conclusion.
We have no comment on those allegations.
Moving on to some draft predictions. With the draft tomorrow night, we've asked each member of the FTTC to give us a look into which direction they're leaning with their pick. Some of these participants have chosen to seemingly give their strategy away, while others have played it close to the vest. As a reminder, the draft order is as follows. Nice Catch Blanco Nino leads us off with the 1-1, followed by the Disasters, Take a Stand, Auto Draft Bot Squad, and Team DS. In the 6th spot, we have Strickland Propane, followed by Roadrunners, Parentheses, Naz, Sneaky Pete, Stinky, Mike's Lucky Charm, and the last 2 picks, Jordy's Ghost and Vic Vinegar. Let's go ahead and see where their heads are at.
So I don't want to give my competitors an edge, but let's just say that as of now, I'm leaning toward a player who wears purple. And
that's all I'm going to translate that into my draft and getting some bad boys: Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Deshaun Watson. I might even go to jail before the league starts in preparation.
Jamar Chase, I'd be happy with. I played with Joe Burrow last year, and he was really good to me. And Christian McCaffrey's cool, and he would be a good running back. So probably either of those two I'd be happy with.
I don't know. I don't trust Saquon. Eckler, I feel like taking Eckler at like 4 kind of seems a little high, but I don't know. So this is why I got to do some research. I'm kind of scrambling.
If one of the top 2 running backs finds its way to me, there's a chance I'll pull the trigger again and start the inevitable cycle of having 2 running backs that bust on me, and I scramble the rest of the season and make a couple of trades with Brian Granny. Or Kelsey is going to be there. One of Tyreek, Cooper Kupp, maybe Jamar Chase falls. We'll see. I've circled those. I was going to say I've circled those names, and like I said, I don't have the strongest managers drafting before or after me. So I think honestly, it's a championship or bust type draft.
A mock draft yesterday, and I had Travis Kelce dropped to me at number 6, and I think that he will be gone by the time my pick rolls around in our league. So I just I have a group, actually really only 2-3 players that I'm targeting at the moment.
I'm going to break some news here on the FTTC podcast, and I'm going to just tell you, we will not be taking Travis Kelce at number 7. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to give an advantage to others in the league, but I can say without a doubt, he's not even someone we're looking at 7.
Yeah, well, for starters, Jason, it's none of your fucking business. And that's the one part that I really want to make clear before we go any further. What I can tell you is our draft analyst and our team here is going to be prepared to make the best pick at each slot that we're given. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, Jazz, I can't be giving away my trade secrets here. But, like I said, if James Conner's still there at 110, that's my guy.
I've got my eyes on Kelsey, and now that we've brought him up, I guess I need to buck the strategy of going, only RB and wide receivers. So, sometimes you gotta zig when everyone else is zagging. I'm also terrified of rookie running backs such as Bizon Robinson, which seems like he might be in that vicinity, depending on how others feel about him. So we'll see how that all
I will
shakes out.
say I do have a certain player. I don't think he'll be there, and I'm almost 95% sure he will not be there. But it's Kelsey, and if he actually falls to me, I will be absolutely
Now let's
shocked.
talk a little bit more about the league in terms of the draft landscape. Who do you think is going to make the worst pick in the draft?
I really don't know how you can look any further than Cookie Boy Incorporated. I mean, the guy is an absolute bozo, and I, frankly, am really surprised to have seen the, success that he saw a couple years back. I think it was the COVID year where he stumbled into a championship. I mean, you saw him at the owners' meeting. The guy was literally and figuratively in outer space. He had the background that showed him in an astronaut suit, and it couldn't be more fitting for the individual behind the screen. So I think I would start with Cookie Boy. I do worry about
Billy making a pretty terrible pick. Just putting a little bit too much over analysis, and then it'll just be like a bust of a player by week 3 or something like that. Or he'll probably draft one of the players like Jonathan Taylor that's out for 4 weeks at the beginning of the season or something like that. That's something Billy I could see doing.
Very likely to be Steve, but then he usually does some good free agent pickups. He's always just survived.
Yeah, I'm going to go against the grain with this one. I think it's going to be Steve. I don't know why, but I think he's in the number 3 spot. Didn't show his face at the owners' meeting. I think there's a village full of people with their pitchforks rooting for him to fail, and I am one of them.
Steve did not show up for the meeting. His head doesn't really seem to be in it this season, and I don't think he's doing much prep. And I think that could lead to some poor decision making.
Unless if Schillinger's manually drafting and he's not relying on the robots to do his drafting for him, he's always a safe bet to just make an outlandishly bad pick. Other than him, I think Nate, formerly a great manager, another example of a manager who I think the times have changed and he's not adapted, but I don't really see him bouncing back from that. I think he had literally one of the worst teams on planet Earth last year. Don't know how he didn't get last place. I think his best years are frankly behind him. And I could see him reaching on a hypey rookie too early. I could see him just doing all sorts of weird things like he's known to do. I heard Jacko kind of complaining. I thought he actually might cry during the owners' meeting yesterday with the 11th pick. He might make a frustration panic reach. So I guess those would be my 3 candidates.
If history tells us anything, it might be our host that I'm talking to here. I mean, I think you've had quite a few tough seasons.
It's going to be Jack O'Malley that makes the head scratcher pick when he reaches for a member of the Chicago Bears, maybe a round or 2 earlier than they would normally go.
God, it always seems like Mr. Naz is picking somebody way too early. Perhaps a defense, in round 9 or something. I'll say Mr. Naz. He's low hanging fruit. Him and I go at it in the comments.
Oh, probably Schillinger.
Let's circle back to our league for a second with some upcoming season predictions. Whose turn is it to take home the title?
I think that there's over a 50% chance that I could win. I think I'm at least better than half the league. And yeah. And I think I'm confident I'm going to make the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, anything can happen.
Well, obviously I'd like to say myself, but I think just to keep it interesting, I think that we're going to see Mr. Nate Johnson take home the title. I think that for once, Mr. Know-It-All Nate and all of his little crafty fantasy picks are gonna are going to pay off for him, and he is going to win the league with a 13-1 record.
Nate the Great. Jumped the gun before, but I'll stick with my pick of Nate the Great.
Jazz, me, obviously. No question. The time has come. This is the season.
I would love to win the regular season more than anything. That's just like, it's got to be so satisfying, right? It's just like, oh, I'm just cruising in as the number one. I don't really give a shit if I win the championship. That's like double dipping. So yeah, that more than anything. I would love it.
Yeah, this is three-peat, regular season, back-to-back postseason champs. I don't think it's even going to be really a problem this year. As long as we show up to the draft, it's evident that we're going to be in it. We're going to win the regular season if we show up to the draft. The playoffs, it's game at a time. Got to get kind of lucky. But I really just don't see it being an issue this year, especially if we don't get a tight end in the first 3 rounds. It really shouldn't be too.
We're gonna go worst to first with the man Jason Stankiewicz.
Jason, I'm looking at you. I like the turnaround story.
I mean, unfortunately, Jason, and this may not surprise anyone, but you're looking at him right now. I think I'm primed for a nice year. I'd say, if not me, I'll say Trevor Kinsey gets his first. Knocked on the door, never had an elite team. Maybe the luck rolls his way. I could see Trev in his wedding year getting that first one.
So one dark horse I actually have for the title had a very good year last year, and I think came up just short. And that would be the organization out in Seattle, soon to be a Father Enterprises in Jack O'Malley.
It's gonna be me. I've been knocking on the door. I'm ready to bust through the championship and take it home.
Now let's talk about the opposite. Who you got finishing last?
Yeah, I should be probably concerned for myself.
I'm going to go ahead and say I think we see a first to worst, which would not be the first time in league history that we see that. I think Brian Durante gets a little fat from the feast, ends up bottom of the heap.
This is going to shock a lot of people. I think it's the commissioner. I think after his announcement, he's going to be focused on other things. We're going to hate to see it from Roadrunners NAS perspective.
The commissioner has never really plumbed the true depths of our league, and I could see this year being
like it's high time that our fearless leader, Mike Kokoris, gets knocked off his pedestal a little bit. And, maybe he has to spend a year in the cellar to really humble himself.
Me with Billy. I think Billy's going to finish last this year.
If I'm going to have to go out on a limb here, Jason, I'm going to say that the Auto Draft Bot Squad finishes in last again. I think it's a safe pick. Now, again, I would be really pleased to see a turnaround in fortunes there. But you just get the vibe, especially coming out of that camp, that they just don't really care very much.
Timmy P. I think he's going to find himself in a hole this year, digging out. I can already feel that he's going to be nagging me on the weekends and during the week for like trades, just like trying to get himself out of last place.
Maybe Timmy P.
I think it's going to be Tim.
I think it's going to be Sam Prentice. I think Strickland Propane's going to turn into man in the can again pretty soon.
On some predictions, who's going to have the fastest shotgun and who's going to do the most shotguns?
Me. Me and Nate.
Fastest shotgun. I mean, it's tough to bet against Steve. He's well practiced in it. He's done a lot of them. He's got good technique. I'll have to give him that. Most shotguns, you're looking at Cookie Boy. You're looking at Cookie Boy minus 300. And I feel like, Jason, you throw your hat in the ring with some really bad performances. I'll say you're runner-up at plus 140.
Fastest shotgun is definitely not Billy. But I'm going to go most shotguns will be Billy after he's going to lose the league. Fastest shotgun. I think Steve Blazer is pretty fast with the shotgun, so I'm going to go fastest time.
If I remember correctly, Steve Blazer can shotgun really, really fast. So I'm going to pick him based off of that memory, which I'm fairly certain I'm right. I'm pretty sure he can do it very, very quickly. I do hope that you get the most shotguns because I really enjoy those videos. And what I enjoy about them almost as much as the content of you, giving your preamble and then shotgunning the beverage yourself, is the disdainful comments that we hear from your wife in the background. Really sounds incredibly disgusted with you, like she isn't wanting to be doing this, but she's forced to when you live in a home of two.
I'll go with Steve for that one. And who do I think will do the most this season or have done the most? I guess I'll have to go with my last place
Nate
pick.
will shotgun 3 times, which I think will be the most, potentially 4. I know that wouldn't be the record, not the record for the most shotguns in a season, but I think that will be the most this year. Fastest shotgun, I mean, there's no faster gun in the West than Steve Blazer.
Well, if Coco is losing, then I would also like to see him do the most shotguns, take home the double crown. I don't know what the third prong of that would be to make it the triple crown, but who's going to do the fastest gun? Steve has always impressed me with his gunning abilities and his strict adherence to the true rules and arts of gunning. So, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Steve.
Our commissioners put up some pretty impressive times in the past. It's not going to be me. I'm not talented there. But so I'll go with Coco for fastest. And for the most, I'm trying to think. I feel like we don't see a lot of Mr. Kinsey. Maybe him. I think he had some at work shotguns, which is unique. I like seeing those. So maybe more of that.
Yeah, I'll go with you for the most. The fastest. Oh. We'll go with Shill on the
I
fastest.
think I would have to give the edge to Steve. And then who is going to shotgun the most? Again, tough to make that call before I see any rosters, but I think it's going to be. I mean, if Coco ends up getting last, then it's going to be him. But I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Timmy Boy do a couple early morning Tuesday shotguns this year.
The fastest gun is Mr. Prentice these days, and also he's done it awesome. I would say. You can't forget that hairy rug of a chest. So it just like burns in my mind. And so I think he did it like 2 or 3 times last season, and he puts it down so fast. Billy's shotgun, I will say, was one of the slowest I've seen, and when he had to like redo it, was probably the best shotgun video we've ever seen in the league. When he's like, he does it, and then he's like, "That's not gonna fly," and then he like does it again. That was my favorite easily. But Prentice.
Right, now, for this last segment, we got some rumors that we need to address. Obviously, the first one is the bombshell rumor that came out yesterday that you're looking at stepping down as commissioner in 2040. Can you give us some thoughts on that? And do you foresee the league surviving without Roger fucking Goodell in the mix?
Honestly, Jason, every day I ask that question myself. I wonder if 2040 is too early. Many of my advisors think that 2040 might be too early, that we don't have enough time to groom my successor. But honestly, I'm confident in my own ability to train someone, to mentor someone. Who knows, Jason? It could be you running the league in 2041. Of course, I do, if I don't like the trend things are going in, I do reserve the rights, a la one of my idols, Bob Iger at Disney, to take the reins back. So I'm not ruling that out completely, but let's just say the league better be on good behavior over the next few years, because I am looking for my next successor, so that I can really focus on some of my other ventures in my twilight years.
Any comment on the rumor of the commissioner potentially stepping down in 2040?
Putin has alluded to him stepping down at some point in the future before as well. And, obviously that hasn't panned out. So who knows? I think it's more likely that he'll be starting some fruitless international wars before I see him step down.
Usually how a ownership structure works is that the commissioner needs, over 50% or over, I think, 2/3 of the vote. So I'm just very disappointed in the commissioner. Again, he puts a lot of self-worth into the league and thinks he can make these decisions unilaterally. But ultimately, I think this should have went to a vote. And maybe institute some yearly feedback on how we can make the league better. I mean, there's a lot of performance-related issues and lack of transparency in these decisions that's causing a lot of frustration. I'm not surprised.
We thank the commissioner. He's really been the best we could ever ask for. We're going to throw our support behind whoever he chooses, and I think whoever he chooses we're confident he'll make the right decision, and we're going to support that with whatever he wants to do. Now, will he go to another league? We don't think so, but we would follow him to the ends of the earth.
Commissioner will be in a different age bracket, not in a different tax bracket, but in a different age bracket. And look, I think he'll be happy to relinquish the reins.
I think our commissioner likes to drum up controversy to hide some of the other rumors that we've already talked about that are floating around. So I don't think this is much different than that. I would be interested to see even 5, 6, 7 years down the line, if he hasn't reversed course on this and kind of moved the goalposts of when he's planning to resign.
I think he's starting to feel, especially with all the Steve punishment lagging on as it has done. There's rumors just going around that the commissioner's just kind of lost his touch. I think it's a good decision. So looking forward to 2040, but we'll see if we can get things done in the meantime.
I guess I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, 16 years is a long time from now, and the landscape of the game might change by then. So who knows what's going to happen? I think so far so good. So maybe we might say 16 more years after this next decade and a half.
I think like the Senate and Congress these days, we need an age limit and term limit. So, commish, that's a little too long for my liking. Maybe we keep it to 4 years, 8 years before we keep it, however many that was. But yeah.
I mean, they're big shoes to fill, Jason. They're big shoes to fill. I think our league will be on the back foot a little bit immediately following his departure, but I'm confident that the 17 years between now and when he steps down, that we will be able to find a suitable replacement that can get us back to where we once were when he was in charge, and maybe even beyond that. Who's to say?
How do you respond to rumors that it was fixed and the lottery ended up with your name on top? As it was meant to be, apparently.
Yeah, I don't think that was surprising to hear that. I have many skeptics, critics, haters in the league across the media landscape. If these allegations are true, my response would be, who's going to stop me?
I did not like it at first. And I thought maybe there was a chance he had recorded the race and then screen shared the recording and had simulated it enough until he got first. But then I thought about it. And when he was clicking through the shuffles, I think he shuffled 3 times. And Durrani actually said, can you shuffle a 4th time? And I saw the mouse shuffle the 4th time. I think ultimately it'll be as infamous as the Zapruder film. I think Americans for decades will forever analyze the grainy video of the whatever the fuck that was, that race. But at the end of the day, I think it was clean. I think he cares too much. I think he cares way too much about this league, and I think he cares too much about his pristine legacy.
I think we can say it was all above board. But I mean, if it did come out that it was rigged, that he gave himself the 1-1. I don't think that would really surprise me, Jason.
That was the one legitimate thing he's ever done. But no, I could see. I mean, I was talking to him the other day about how he was. I think he brought it up during the call, just all the AI talk, and I feel like he's been getting more into kind of this tech manipulation mindset that it did raise my eyebrow, which with the picks of the draft. I mean, it could have easily been manipulated, video recorded. I guess I didn't really pay attention to it that much, but It is what it
I think
is.
it was a complete farce. I think it was coded into the program. I think, the shirt and tie, the jacket, the presentation, I think all of that was very much a smoke and mirrors to deflect from the fact that Mike Kokoris has been coding in Python, C++, and JavaScript for nearly 20 years. And in doing so, has the ability to manipulate outcomes just like this. So I realize it's something that's out of our control. It's nothing that would really, I think, come to a head in terms of pursuing it. So it's just one of those things that sometimes the most powerful people can get away with more than everybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do think he had another window open and paused his share screen and swapped it for him to get first place. As someone in sales, it's actually pretty easy to do. And I know Coco's had a lot of training on that, being in sales as well. So, um, I think there's a lot of pressure for him to win the league. He's one of those guys that always has to manage his team to the playoffs. Pretty much his drafts are underperformed. So I think he's trying to put himself in a good position to start out fast, which he never does.
I mean, we've talked about corruption a lot already today, but I'd also like to point out, as I mentioned earlier, that he's never really been at the bottom of the league either. Now he's getting the first pick. A lot of questions, being raised by not even by myself. I'm hearing a lot of things from a lot of other folks. So I think he's got a lot to prove this season.
I think that's an honest first pick. I do. I think I think that the draft order is truly random. And I think but at the same time, I do think there's one real life reflection, and I think it's Jacko, and I think he is slow in real life when we're talking foot speed, and he's slow in the draft foot race as well. So it makes sense that he is generally towards the bottom of the order.
His attorneys will be hearing from mine. We'll see if we can prove anything at this next commissioners or owners meeting before next season. Until then, we'll just have to bide our time and keep on researching.
It's no mystery that he's 1-1, but it's even greater mystery as to why I'm 1-12. I think the commissioner has it out for me, and I won't be denied.
Straight from the source, your thoughts on the punishment and what has been the delay in doing it?
I think that what's important to note is that I consistently am the vocal minority when it comes to our league punishments. I think that our commissioner has some obsession with trying to get on Barstool Sports or something, and so he tries to make the most outrageous punishments ever, and oftentimes they're either not feasible or very, very hard to accomplish, or just overall too much. And I think that at the time when we created this punishment, I said that it was going to be very hard to do logistically, and I was overruled. And so the first year that it was going to happen, I think that Kokoris and maybe Nate and whoever else was supposed to organize it had forgotten to sign me up, and so they missed the opportunity. And then the next year, the Bulls didn't host a tryout. And then I think for the next 2 years, or maybe 3, was COVID or something like that. So I think that up until this year, I think it is completely out of my control that I did not do the tryout. This year, I truly did just have another commitment that weekend because they let me know it's only one day and I just couldn't do it. So I am fine to do another punishment, like I've said this whole time. But also, like I've said this whole time, it was stupid to think that we were going to be able to do this in the first place. I think that's my take on it.
All right, last question for you. Obviously this has been a situation that's been ongoing in FTTC for a while. It's our first chance to really report on it, though. But Mr. Steve Blazer has had an outstanding punishment for quite some time now. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as it relates to the overall delay and if you see him participate.
So we would all just love to see it. I feel like it would be a huge morale booster more than anything, and it would be like, the best thing we could possibly experience going into this season. So just do it, Steve. Come on.
See if we get any kind of answer out of Steve. But if the past few years have shown us anything, I would be surprised if the Bulls have any extra applicants this year.
Naz is going to come out on the opposite end of the league on this one. If I was Steve, I would just quit the league. I just no, I'm not fucking doing this. One, I'm not or I would find some way to fake doing it, I guess. I would show up and be like, oh, they told me I couldn't do it. Something along those lines. Where is it? It's at the United Center? Okay, so it wouldn't be hard to get to. I wouldn't fucking step foot on the court. I would go to the thing, get some sort of film of me being there looking like an idiot, but there's no chance I would sacrifice my position in the league if I had to fucking do that.
I'll be really curious to see what the result is. I understand the conflicts and this being a particularly difficult punishment, but I also am forced to realize that we're 30 years old, and what's the phrase? Oh, right, yeah. We're grown-ass men.
I do agree that, or I think Steve is being honest with his conflicts and stuff. So that is just a hard punishment. And then it is also hard to, try to find something that is of equal kind of, level of punishment and kind of, replace that.
No, I'm more in Steve's camp in terms of the actual G League tryout. What I am most disappointed for is that we, as a league, haven't found him an alternative punishment to do over the last 3 or 4 years, which I put the blame on the commissioner. He's got to, if he wants to just, unilaterally make himself the commissioner for 2040 without asking permission or going to a vote with the owners, I think he needs to hold himself accountable when he can't make an owner do his punishment, regardless, whether it's the G League or something else. So, I'm really looking for some leadership and trying to get him to figure out a solution here.
I think there have been some unavoidable circumstances for sure. I will say there was some funny business around year one where, I think a Bucks tryout was well within the cards, and a little road trip across the border. But you know what? I'm willing to give him a pass so long as he owns up to it and sees it through this year. His talk so far has just been that the opportunity has not truly presented itself, but now he's got no excuses, and I fully expect him to see him geared up and ready to rock.
I just want to see him do something stupid. I don't care what it is at this point. I think 5 years gone by without doing it. I think if it was anyone else, I would hear if it was me, I would be hearing nonstop from him. So look, I just want him to, I just want 2023 midnight on December 31st. I want 2 punishments to have been done in this calendar year.
That's a tricky question. I'd love to hear Steve himself's response to this question. I certainly have my thoughts. I believe Sam has shared a G League date. What is it? September 16th, maybe Saturday. I'm guessing he's going to come up, try to weasel his way out of it. And at that point, we're going to have a serious look at him and say, what's your future with this league? I think there are some other alternative punishments we're going to have to look at. But I think everyone's preference is that he sticks to his word. He's currently the only member of the league that has not done their punishment. He has a great opportunity to do so in about 2 weeks from now. I hope he recognizes the opportunity and takes it. I realize that some of it's been out of his control. He's had a wedding, there's COVID, but we're looking at a very tangible date now here. So if he can't do that, you got to start asking questions about his honor, his integrity, and quite frankly, his future with this league.
I think that Steve is a very honorable man. And, with that said, I think he is going to. I think he's going to see through this punishment. I think he is going to complete it. He's a great basketball player. He is a great skill set. He could easily fill in at the 1 or 2 spot on any NBA G League team. I think he might surprise some people out there on the court with his shiftiness. He's got a mean jumper, and he gives 100% on both ends of the court. I think he's going to do it. He's overdue for it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there were some excuse that materialized in the next week or so. But I'm hoping that he does it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the FTTC podcast. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and we'll catch you again after the draft.